Could you tell me, please, about your friends in the co-op and your street ball games?
I can go on about that in considerable length because I still remember it vividly, and that was like the central feature of my life in those years. And it's a strange thing that it's a lost world, I guess. So it may be worth describing some of it because otherwise there's no recollection of it. We played, the games we played were variations of baseball. They played according to baseball rules, but not with baseballs or not even softballs, because in the city where we were playing, you couldn't dare hit a baseball or softball around. There were too many, it was too crowded. So we didn't play in the streets the way you hear some stories where they use the sewer manhole covers as bases or things like that. We had a large schoolyard. There was a school only 2 blocks away from where I lived, a public school built in the 1930s, and it had a very large schoolyard paved in concrete, which meant that even during the summer, I don't think we ever wore shorts, and even at that, our knees and elbows were constantly scuffed up from falling on the concrete. So the games we played, one of them was stickball, which was played with a round rubber pink ball, sort of like a hairless tennis ball, and we called them Spaldings because they were made by the Spalding Company. And then the sticks that we used were really mop handles or broom handles. I can't remember if people bought them separately or just took over a worn out mop or broom handle. And not everyone had their own stick. I don't think I ever did, for example. I don't remember bringing my own stick to these games, but somebody always did, so there was always one around. And we had 2 versions of stickball, actually. One of them we played by pitching the ball against the school building. Someone painted or chalked you might say kind of a median-sized batter's box outlined in white, and the pitcher would pitch the ball into that and then call balls and strikes because there was no one else to do it, and the batter would try to hit it, as in baseball, and there were fielders and bases, so one ran the bases after hitting the ball. It was a little bit complicated because we were playing crosswise in the schoolyard across the narrow dimension, which probably was maybe only 100 feet or so. And then at the edge of the schoolyard was a chain link fence that was 2 sections high, so maybe if each one was 5 feet, it would have been 10-foot high fence. And if the ball hit the fence, it was a double. And then if it went over the fence into the street, it was a triple. So statistically, there was a disproportionate number of triples compared to actual baseball. And then if it went all the way across, there was another apartment building, not an amalgamated building, but another kind of apartment across the street. If it hit that, it was a home run. But that brought in further complications because during the summer, no one had air conditioning, so the windows would usually be open, and if the ball flew into someone's window, usually it was some old lady who was home, then we had to try to figure out which apartment it was and how to get into it and how to get their attention to throw the ball back out and hope that when it flew in, it didn't break anything. And the interesting thing is that there was no adult supervision whatsoever. No adults even were present. They didn't watch. There were no perverts around. No one paid any attention. We organized and did this entirely by ourselves. We would just show up early in the morning. We'd be gone all day, might go home for lunch, might not. So from like 8 in the morning till dinner time, we were down there. Nobody knew where we were, what we were doing. We chose up teams. We made the rules. If there was a dispute, you didn't have a big fight because there was no higher authority to appeal to, and there was no point in fighting because it was just taking time away from the game. So somehow or other, by flipping a coin or doing this thing where you put your hands up a bat and whoever comes out last is right, that type of thing. That was how it was decided. It was all very congenial, and it sort of had to be, because every day we played, the makeup of the teams would be different. We chose teams up over and over again each time.